This is almost 40 years and since we moved to Thailand with our three little redheads in the beginning. And when I look back, I can see that there's just one overarching theme, purpose, call of God that's been on our lives all the way through. And of course it began back when Terry and I were married, and then we had three redhead kids to start with, and we're responsible to raise those kids. And I think everybody can raise their own family. That should be a given with, help from parents and aunts and uncles and whatever you need, right? But then when we moved to Thailand back then in 1981, the reach expanded, and it was the next level of responsibility that God gave us was to look after the growing family, which grew to 33 kids. 27 of them were adopted, of course. And at that point, to identify the gifts and the callings in those kids' lives and help them pursue that, to where we've got guys like Sawang now, who's a powerful pastor, and Sami, who is a powerful leader in the income-producing ministries, and then of course Becky, who one of our natural-born kids, who's really, her and Maddie are running most of the ministry. It's powerful to see these kids grow up and become what God had intended for them to be before you and I ever saw it in their lives. And I'm excited about Sawang and Leanne and the church because they are on a track and in some momentum that's going to take church planting in Thailand to where it needs to be. And then when we look at the next level of reach, because we were faithful in raising those kids, and our partners were faithful in working together with us to raise that family of 33, that God expanded that into the nations, and then people started coming from all the other nations, and you got guys like Joseph that came and became from a young kid who was so shy, didn't know where to go or what to do, but God supernaturally led him to Thailand to where he could be adopted in a greater vision. And what God imparted to him, and he took it back to India, and of course the same thing in Nepal and Philippines and all of these places, where he's changing that nation simply because he was able to connect with the right family. And that's the one thing that we do. We have been used by God to identify a gift and a calling in individual particular lives, certain disciples, like Paul said of Timothy, and see them rise up and become powerful, successful leaders. The great thing is that you've got Sawang and Leanne who are reproducing, Becky and Matt who are reproducing, Joseph who's reproducing, 80 students in his Bible school, and now they're ready to go out and plant churches all over India. And that expanded us into a whole new level of partnership. And I don't know if you've thought about this, but what I noticed was that our partners now became their partners. And so, in fact, many of you have actually partnered directly with the nations that we've raised up out of Thailand. And then the fourth level of reach that's yet before us, and that is that if we look into the future over the horizon, beyond what we see right now, there are people like the Beckys, like the Sawangs, like the Josephs, like so many more that have been raised up in the ministry that we've not met yet, and they're there and they're waiting, and they have the call and the purpose of God on their lives. And God wants to connect us with them. And to do that, we're going to have to expand, and we're going to have to grow a partnership base like we've never seen before. And just as surely as God has spoken into the lives of some, guy living in a slum in India or living in a jungle in Burma or wherever it may be, and put something in their heart that they know that there's more, they know that there's something coming their way, but it's going to take a partnership base that's absolutely tied in and looking and willing to invest in that level of outreach. The one thing that we do is identify the gifts and the callings of God in certain people's lives. And it'd be nice to say that we can do that with everybody, but the fact is that Jesus said that unless the Father draws them, he's talking about a specific engagement in lives. And taking those lives and adopting them into the family, into who we are together as a partnership base, as a leadership base, and seeing whatever it takes to get these young men and women to walk in the fulfillment of the gift and the calling of God on their lives, for their village, for their city, for their nation. That's the one thing that we do. We see God using this spirit of adoption to bring people into a place where they can indeed stand up, rise up, and become all that God wants them to be. That's what God has called us to do.